Lionel Messi, just soaking it all in, enjoying the moment.
Grown men, World Cup winners, some of the toughest competitors alive.
Y viendo a Leo, que al final es nuestro mayor ejemplo, perdón que mencione,
And they come apart just from saying one man's name.
Another majestic moment for Lionel Messi.
People think Lionel Messi was handed everything.
No puedo levantar la mirada, lo siento. Estoy muy emocionado. Qué grupo de jugadores, hermano.
The truth took 20 years.
Que tiene Leo tirando el botín por este problema muscular, porque esta Argentina con Scaloni.
4 lost finals, and one night he tried to walk away for good. You had your eyes on the victory. They were too busy worrying about the sacrifice. If you started paying attention in 2022, you saw a coronation. You saw a man lift the World Cup in Qatar, and it was easy to think, of course it's Messi. It was always going to be Messi. It was never always going to be Messi. Go back to 2007, his first real final with Argentina, the Copa America. He was 20 years old, the youngest hope his country had, and Brazil beat them 3-0 while he stood in the middle of the field and watched another team celebrate. Then the 2010 World Cup, where Germany didn't just beat Argentina, they took them apart, 4-0, and sent Messi home without a single goal to his name. He was 23, already the best player on the planet at his club, and his own country decided he shrank when it mattered most. Then came the one that scarred him. 2014, the World Cup final, Argentina against Germany again. Messi was minutes away from the only thing he'd ever really wanted. Then Mario Götze scored in extra time, and it was gone. On his way to collect a runner-up medal, Messi walked right past the trophy, close enough to touch it, and he couldn't even bring himself to look. They handed him the golden ball that night, the prize for the best player at the entire World Cup, and he took it like it burned his hands. The best on the planet, and still a loser in the one place he wanted to win. Then, 2015, Copa America final, a scoreless game against Chile that went to penalties, and Argentina lost. Then, 2016, the Copa again, the final again, Chile again, and once more, it came down to penalties. Messi stepped up to take his, the man who never misses, and he skied it over the bar. Another final, gone, on his own foot, and standing in the middle of that field, 29 years old, a man who'd now lost 4 finals in a row, he came apart. Right there, still in his kit, he said through tears that the national team was finished for him. He quit. That wasn't a strategy. That wasn't a performance. That was a man who tried and tried and tried, while a whole country pointed at him and called him the reason they kept losing. They called him cold. They said he didn't feel the shirt. They said he'd never be Maradona. They hung every defeat around his neck like he'd played all 11 positions himself. In a country that treats soccer like religion, he'd become the man they prayed to and the man they blamed at the same time. And then he did the thing nobody expected. He came back and got knocked out of the 2018 World Cup by France in a wild 4-3 loss, a game where he barely got the ball in dangerous areas. He came back and lost the 2019 Copa America semi-final to Brazil. He came back knowing the next defeat would land on his shoulders alone and nobody would share it, and he kept showing up anyway. The people who call it easy were never there for any of it. Gifts don't take 15 years. Gifts don't show up after 4 lost finals. And gifts don't make a grown man stand on a field and think about giving up the thing he loves most in the world. He didn't win because it was easy. He won because after every single failure, he found one more reason to come back. And the boys who now cry at the sound of his name grew up watching every one of those failures on their living room floors. One of them grew up just enough to write him a letter.
Huge thanks to our sponsor, OK Jersey. If you're looking to add high-quality kits to your collection, from the latest 2026 season to iconic retros, they've got you covered starting at just £15. Please use my promo code MAUS to get an 8% discount.
The year is 2016. Messi has just missed that penalty, lost that final, and quit. And somewhere in Argentina, a 15-year-old kid sits down and writes him a message online, never dreaming anyone will read it. The kid begs him to stay. He apologizes on behalf of a country that piled impossible weight on one man. He tells Messi to play for fun, because when Messi has fun, the whole country has fun. He says watching him in the blue and white is the greatest pride in the world. He signs off with thank you and forgive us. That kid was Enzo Fernandez. At the time, he was a nobody, a teenager in a youth academy who might never make it. He wasn't writing to a teammate. He was writing to the poster on his wall, the way any heartbroken 15-year-old fan would, because his hero had just said he was done, and the kid needed him to stay. 6 years later, that same kid is standing next to Messi in Qatar, lifting the World Cup and getting named the best young player at the whole tournament. And when someone brings up the letter, Enzo laughs and says he was pretty young back then. Then he says something that lands like a punch now. He says if he wrote it today, one page wouldn't be enough. He'd need books.
La carta, la verdad, fue muy emocionante. Bueno, la escribí con mis palabras, con lo que me salía en el momento. La verdad que sí, fue una carta muy linda. Y bueno, después ganar el mundial. La verdad que sí, siempre lo soñé, pero nunca lo imaginé, la verdad.
These aren't just teammates who happen to share a locker room. Rodrigo de Paul walks out beside Messi's right shoulder before every single match, close enough to touch, like a bodyguard who gave himself the job and never asked for a cent. Watch any Argentina walkout and you'll find him, half a step behind, eyes scanning, always right there. Cuti Romero, Julian Alvarez, Lautaro Martinez, all of them grew up as fans. They copied his free kicks in the street with their friends. For most of their lives, Lionel Messi was a poster on a bedroom wall, not a person in the same room. They learned the game watching him do things nobody else could. And then, one day, they got called up, and the poster was standing across the training pitch, passing them the ball. Now they line up beside him, and every one of them would rather snap their own legs than watch that man walk off a field crying by himself. In the summer of 2024, they came within an inch of having to. Miami, July 14th, 2024, the Copa America final. Argentina against Colombia. And Messi is chasing one more trophy with the group he loves. In the first half, he rolled his ankle, got up, and kept playing on it. Then in the 66th minute, on a play where nobody even touched him, he went down again. And this time, he couldn't continue. He'd planted his foot wrong and rolled the ankle, a freak, non-contact injury in the biggest match of the summer. He pulled the captain's armband off his arm and handed it to Angel Di Maria, who was playing the final match of his entire Argentina career. Then Messi limped to the bench, took off his shoe, and looked down at an ankle that had already swollen to twice its size. And the cameras caught him breaking down, face buried in his hands, sobbing on the bench, in what everyone in that stadium feared might be the last big game of his international life.
tiene cerca más que nadie, Bellido. Adrián Esparza.
Aquí me queda muy cerca Lionel Messi. Muy rápido, soltó un grito Lionel, que rápido, obviamente.
The stadium didn't even know at first. The screens never showed his tears to the crowd, so for a few minutes the fans had no idea their captain was falling apart on the bench. Then word spread and it rolled around Hard Rock Stadium, that chant, Leo, Leo, Leo. Thousands of voices calling the name of a man who couldn't play anymore. But the players on the field saw it right away, up close, on the big screen at their end. Rodrigo de Paul described that exact second later on the Olga stream. He said the whole team saw Messi crying and something snapped in them. They looked at each other and said they were winning this one for him.
Griterío total por la imagen esa y nosotros la vimos. Y ahí como que dijimos, viste, por él.
The game stayed level for another 40+ minutes. No Messi on the field, just 10 men and a promise. And in the 112th minute, Lautaro Martinez stabbed in the winner, and Argentina lifted the Copa America with their captain watching from the bench, the tears running now for a completely different reason. They didn't win it despite losing him. They won it because they'd seen him hurt, and they flat out refused to let that be the ending. And there was a second goodbye folded inside that night. Angel Di Maria, wearing the armband Messi had just handed him, was playing the last match of his Argentina career. Two of the men who'd carried this team through a decade of heartbreak, one crying on the bench, one saying farewell on the field. The kids won it for both of them. This kind of loyalty doesn't get born on a night you win. It gets born on a night you lose everything, and someone stands up in the wreckage and speaks. For these men, that night came years earlier, in a silent losing locker room.
Speaking of those kits I mentioned earlier, OK Jersey isn't just about low prices, they're the gold standard. They have a 4.5 Trustpilot rating and everything from 90s legends to the 2026 World Cup lineup in stock. Use my code MOUSE right now to get 8% off your entire order.
July 3rd, 2019, Belo Horizonte, Brazil. Argentina had just lost the Copa America semi-final to the host nation, 2-0. Another tournament gone, another summer where Messi flew home with nothing to a country ready to blame him for all of it. Back then, the story on Messi was that he was cold, distant, a genius who didn't have the fire to lead, who didn't even sing the anthem before matches. His own countrymen said it out loud on television. Diego Maradona, the man he was always measured against, said Messi didn't have the personality to lead the team. Then the door of that losing locker room closed, and the cold captain stood up and talked. Di Maria is the one who told the world what happened in there. He said Messi told them he was proud of the team they'd built, that a lot of them barely knew each other, some had only just been called up, and yet it felt like they'd been together for years. He said they'd all pulled in the same direction from day one, and he turned to the young ones and told them they'd earned that shirt, that they deserved to be exactly where they were. By the time Messi stopped talking, Di Maria said, everyone in the room was crying, the kids most of all. This wasn't a victory speech. They just lost. They were going home empty-handed, again. In most losing locker rooms, the captain, who gets blamed for everything, keeps his head down and says nothing. Messi did the opposite. He stood up in the ruins of another failure and told a room full of frightened young players that he was proud of them, that they belonged. He gave the credit away on the worst night of the summer. That was the night the cold label came off in private. The rest of the country still saw a quiet man who didn't celebrate enough. His teammates saw something else entirely. They saw a captain who, on the worst night of the year, chose to lift a room full of kids instead of protecting himself. And once a man does that for you, once he stands in the worst moment and lifts you instead of blaming you, something changes for good. You can never again watch him suffer and just stand there. His pain becomes your pain. His weight becomes yours to carry. The trouble is, some of that weight they could never take from him, because some of it he refused to hand over. 2 years after that speech, the kids started winning. The 2021 Copa America, where Messi finally lifted a trophy with Argentina and cried into it. The 2022 World Cup in Qatar, the coronation you already know. And now, at this tournament, they've become a team that only knows how to win the hard way. That brings us to the round of 16, the game right before England. July 7th, 2026, Atlanta again, Argentina against Egypt. This whole tournament had already turned into a series of near-death escapes. A tiny island nation called Cape Verde had taken them to extra time. Later, a short-handed Switzerland would too, but Egypt was the one that nearly ended it. For most of that night, Lionel Messi was losing badly. He missed a penalty, his second miss from the spot in this tournament alone. No player in history had ever missed 2 penalties at a single World Cup. Then he got knocked off the ball, caught flat-footed, overhitting everything. When Egypt scored their second in the 67th minute, the title defense had about 20 minutes left to live, and 80,000 people in Atlanta sat watching the ending arrive. Then, Romero headed in Messi's cross in the 79th. 4 minutes later, Messi drilled the equalizer himself, and in stoppage time, Enzo rose to head the winner, 3-2. From dead and buried to through, in the space of a coffee break. Messi dropped to the grass in the center circle, face buried in his hands, shoulders heaving. These weren't the neat tears of a man who just won. It was ugly, folding in half sobbing, the kind you can't fake and can't stop. He said later it was a release, everything from the whole night, leaving his body at once, the relief all tangled up with how angry he still was about that penalty. He scored the goal that saved his country, and part of him was still furious at himself. Then a microphone found Enzo, still in his kit, and he couldn't get the sentence out. He called Messi their greatest example, then had to stop and apologize for getting emotional on live television. Out on the field, Lautaro had already reached him. He wrapped him up and told Messi to enjoy this one because he deserved it. And then Lautaro said the thing the whole squad carries in their bones. They'd give everything for themselves, sure, but more for Messi, because it's his last World Cup and he's already given them so much. Even the coach couldn't hold it. Lionel Scaloni, the man who built this whole team around Messi, stood there wiping his own face, crying right next to his captain, then joked afterward that the players tease him for always being the first one to break. The man who scored more World Cup goals than almost anyone alive still walked off that field, feeling like he'd nearly let his brothers down. That's the weight these men watch him carry. And a few weeks before it, they'd watched him carry something even heavier, something that had nothing to do with soccer at all.
That's it for today. One last reminder to check out OK Jersey via the link below. With fast shipping and premium quality for just £15, it's the best way to grow your collection without overpaying. Go grab your piece of football history now.
June 16th, 2026, Kansas City, Argentina's very first match of this World Cup against Algeria. Messi's family is in the stands, his wife and his 3 sons, watching him play what everyone knows is his final tournament. He scores in the first few minutes, and instead of celebrating, he pulls the front of his sweat-soaked shirt up over his face and wipes away tears right there on the field before the game has barely begun. He goes on to score all 3 in a 3-0 win. His first ever World Cup hat-trick at 38 years old, which ties him with Miroslav Klose for the most goals in the history of the Men's World Cup. Enzo said afterward it's like time never catches up to him. Alexis Mac Allister said the night proved the whole team should be built around Messi because when he's happy, he scores. And when a reporter brought up the record, Messi shrugged it off. He said it was an honor to sit next to names like that, but he didn't think it meant much. His mind was somewhere else, and when they asked about the crying, Messi didn't give them a soccer answer. He said it had nothing to do with the game. He said he'd been through some difficult, complicated days. He wouldn't say what they were, and to this day, he never has. Instead, he thanked the whole delegation, thanked his teammates because they'd been by his side the entire time, giving him the strength to get through it. This is the most famous athlete on earth, a man who's won the World Cup, the Copa America, 8 Ballon d'Ors, everything a career can hold. And in his lowest private moment, off the field, out of the spotlight, the thing that got him through was a group of younger men who used to be his fans, standing around him so he wouldn't break alone. And that's the proof under all of it. For 20 years, the country handed Messi its heartbreak and let him carry it so they didn't have to feel the full weight themselves. Every missed final, every insult, every talk show host who swore he'd never be Maradona. Every night he flew home a failure in the eyes of 45 million people, then flew back and tried again. He took the hit every time, so the rest of the country could keep dreaming, and nobody forced him to. He could have stayed retired in 2016. He could have coasted on being the greatest club player who ever lived and let his country go. Instead, he kept coming back to the one place that hurt him the most, until he dragged the whole thing over the line. His teammates are the only ones who ever saw the full cost up close. So when he finally lets go, they don't see a soccer player crying. They see the man who carried all of them for years, finally letting somebody carry him. Loyalty this pure rewires something in a person. These men would run through a wall for one another, and they still can't watch a single one of them cry without joining in. Every one of them owes him a version of the same debt. He stood in their worst nights and told them they belonged. He walked out in front of them for 2 decades and swallowed every hit meant for the group. He turned a room full of scared kids into World Cup winners and never once asked for the credit. There's a whole generation of Argentine players whose careers exist because a 15-year-old fan grew up to share a field with the man on his wall. Winning next to him was the least of it. He raised them out on the grass in real time, so when the weight finally shows on his face, it breaks something loose in all of them at once. In the kid who wrote the letter, in the bodyguard at his shoulder, in the striker who told him to enjoy his last one, in the coach who calls himself the crybaby of the group, because they know exactly what it took. They watched the losses pile up for 15 years. They watched him quit and come back. They watched a whole country call him cold while he held them all together. And they know no amount of trophies ever really erased any of it. The tears he cries now are made of every year he wasn't allowed to. They're not crying for a soccer player, they're crying for the man who carried them, finally letting himself be carried, in the short time they've got left to do it. They cry because he finally lets them. 20 years he carried this country, and now, at the end, his brothers get to carry him. On Sunday, at 39, he plays his last World Cup final. This was never just soccer. It was the greatest love story Argentina ever wrote. If it moved you, hit like, subscribe, and stay with us for the final.